Hello, this is Kenny Williamson, and welcome back to another episode of Melchizedek Chronicles. It's been a few days since we had another podcast or a podcast come out, so I thought it was about high time we did another one. In this particular one, I'm talking about, I've been watching, I follow a guy on his email list named Bart Sibrel. If you've never heard of him, he is a guy he's a moon landing denier, okay? And I thought he was really interesting a long time ago because I've never believed we went to the moon, okay? But before I became a biblical cosmologist, or a flat earther, as some would say, I thought Bart was right on, because what he does is he takes all of science, of our so-called fake science, and he uses it against the people that are doing it to prove that we didn't go to the moon. Well, I mean, I think he's right on. The problem is he's using their science against them, and their science, in my opinion, is fake. So I don't believe we can get past the firmament, okay? So we're not going into outer space and never have. So it's a really interesting video because he'd sent out some stuff on it saying that he lives off in another country, and he had to come back to the United States here to be on this podcast. Well, the podcast is called the Danny Jones Podcast. Okay. It's all right. I'm not a big fan because, the guy that runs it, he's kind of like, he seems he doesn't seem to know much about anything. It's always these really dumb questions, and he's very opinionated, but doesn't know anything. So anyway, he manages somehow, though, to get Bart Sibrel on his podcast, along with an ex-Astro-Not named Charlie Duke. Okay. I've interviewed a couple of times Bart Sibrel on this podcast, and when it was audio only. So I've talked to Bart a couple of times. I've talked to him on the phone, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with flat Earth. Okay, he believes in outer space. He believes it all, except he doesn't believe we went to the moon. So I think he's just barely scratching the surface. Okay, but I thought this was pretty interesting because I was reading through lots of the comments of all the people that had watched this video, and it's pretty obvious that 99% of the people out there are completely, totally lost. That's pretty obvious. And so they're mad at Bart, and they're mad at this Danny Jones guy for having this astronaut on, because this astronaut, he supposedly, walked on the moon. He's supposedly the 10th person to walk on the moon, and he did this when he was in Apollo 16, the Apollo 16 program. He is now 90 years old. So he came on and he was talking all about it. Well, they're asking him questions, and he doesn't have any answers to any of them, most of them. And so all the people are mad, saying, how dare you put a man like that? He's a brave American hero. He's just, because these people, of course, they think football players are brave American heroes, right? They think Hollywood movie stars are brave and they're American heroes and they're fighting for us. No, they're not. They're devils, they're liars, and it's Hollywood. Okay? But most of these people around here are so lost, they don't have a clue. So they're really attacking Bart Sibrel in the comments. How dare you say this to a national hero? This guy's a national treasure in their eyes. So what we have, in my opinion, is we have a guy up there who claims he walked on the moon, which I don't believe that he did. He's been claiming this for 56 years. And because he's claiming it, and you can go on Cartoon Network and see it, then he's a national treasure. He's a hero. Or he's a liar and a devil. I don't know. He may be telling the truth in his own mind, and we'll talk about that in a second. But some of these other so-called astronauts, that Bart Sibrel tried to interview, one of them being Neil Armstrong, they won't even say they went to the moon. He's like, hey, swear on the Bible you went to the moon. They're like, nah. And the one, Buzz Aldrin, he went up to him, and Buzz Aldrin punched him. And that's, I think that's one of his movies called Astronauts Gone Wild. Pretty interesting. You can see all that, by the way, Astronauts Gone Wild and A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. You can watch those videos for free on his website. And his website is Sibrel.com if you want to go check that out. I think it's interesting. It's really, really interesting to me. It's comical. It's comical to me because Bart believes that we did not go to the moon, but he believes in outer space. He does not believe biblical cosmology whatsoever. And so he's arguing with people who claimed to have went to space, which I don't believe they did either, and they've got all these excuses and all these things, and it's unbelievable. It's comical to me. And the other thing that's comical, seems to me like, is, like I said, he believes everything that NASA says except that we went to the moon. Okay, so they start talking about Van Allen radiation belts that are way out there. Okay, because a guy named Van Allen discovered these belts of radiation, supposedly deep in outer space. But supposedly you would have to go through these belts to get to the moon, right? So you've got modern day astronauts, if you will. You've got them all over online. You can Google this. They're saying, we can't go back to the moon until we figure out how to get through this region of space. This Van Allen radiation is so high that a person can't survive going through it. And we have to figure this out before we can get people into deep space. This is something we have to figure out. But they're like, well, didn't you figure this out back in 1969? I mean, you sent people to the moon 5 times, supposedly. You went right through them. And so, Bart asks Charlie Duke here, this old astronaut, well, how did you get through it? He goes, I don't know anything about it. You've never heard of the Van Allen radiation belts? Oh, yeah, I've heard of them, but, we just went right through it. And it's like, well, they claim they're 30,000 miles long. How fast were you going? Oh, well, we were going, 20,000 miles an hour. Okay, so it took you, an hour and a half to get through them. According to they claim they're so strong because they've sent spaceships into it, that you'd never survive. It would just kill you. It'd be like getting an X-ray for an hour and a half straight. It would literally fry you. And so, they're arguing back and forth about this stuff. So I don't believe the Van Allen radiation belts exist. I think they're fake. Space is fake. You can't get past the firmament. That's what I believe. But these guys here, they believe you can. And one of these limiting factors is these Van Allen radiation belts. So, Bart is talking about the length and the speed, and Charlie Duke comes in and he says, hey, I didn't feel a thing. And so then, Bart's like, well, of course you didn't, because you didn't go through them. You lied. Oh, no, I didn't. I went to the moon. That's all, he repeats that several times. The other thing that's funny in this video is another thing this Charlie Duke keeps repeating is they'll be talking about something like a segment, like let's talk about the Van Allen radiation belts. Somewhere through this guy, he stops and he's like, what exactly is the point of this discussion? And so then Danny here, here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, blah, 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 blah. So what are you saying? I didn't go to the moon? Well, that's the consensus. That's what Bart here is trying to say. Well, I went to the moon. Okay. So then they go to another segment. Okay, let's talk about, whatever else. The moon rocks. What's the point of this discussion? Well, we're trying to determine if the moon rocks are real because, you supposedly brought back moon rocks. these moon rocks were distributed to people all over the world. Well, one of the places over there, I think it's in Amsterdam or the Netherlands over there somewhere, they decided to have their moon rock validated and checked for insurance purposes to get its value. So they had a scientist look at it and come to find out it's not a rock at all. It was a piece of petrified wood. So Bart points out at least one of your moon rocks that you supposedly brought back are fake. And so, this Charlie Duke, he continues on to say, well, we went to the moon because we brought back moon rocks. He goes, I personally picked up a couple 100 pounds of moon rocks. So where do you think we got the moon rocks from if we didn't go to the moon? It's like, well, how do we know the moon rocks are real? Well, I brought them back from the moon. It's like, well, at least one place had theirs tested and then said to be fake. So why was theirs fake? Well, I don't know. Because I picked them up right off the moon. I picked them up off the surface of the moon. And he's got these stories, but he doesn't recall anything technical. Everything's like, I don't remember. Of course, he is 90, right? But so if you ask him anything, too in depth, like they were, I don't recall that. I don't know. I don't remember. But why are we having this discussion? Well, because we're trying to determine if you went to the moon. I went to the moon. I've got moon rocks. I mean, here's what I think happened. I'll tell you in a second. But anyway, so, every few minutes, the guy's like, what's the point of this discussion? I don't know if he doesn't remember or if that's a way of trying just to denial. I'm not sure. So the astronaut goes on to say that we have to accelerate to 25,000 miles an hour to get out of Earth's atmosphere. Okay, now, 25,000 miles an hour. I've got videos of them testing like a rocket sled at like 3,000 miles an hour. And it's like, it goes by you and it's gone. It's like in the blink of an eye, it's here and gone. And if you've ever watched, just Google it, watch a space shuttle take off. It's going slow. It just, and you can see with the clouds. You can verify by the clouds, it's not moving very fast. You see a jet go through there, it's like, it's gone. This is like, real slow, and then it starts turning, and then it finally goes out to the ocean, is what it does. But they claim that that's 25,000 miles an hour. It's pretty obvious to tell that it isn't. But anyway, so he says, we're having to accelerate 25,000 miles to get out of this atmosphere. And then once we get out of the atmosphere and we're headed to the moon, the gravity of the Earth is pulling us and slows us down to 3,000 miles an hour. So in the Earth's atmosphere, where there is supposedly gravity, you're traveling 25,000 miles an hour. In the air, okay? The air. But once you supposedly get out into outer space, where there's a vacuum, no wind resistance, no air, no nothing, then somehow the Earth slows you down to 3,000. I'm going to have to call hogwash on that one, okay? Then he claims that about halfway to the moon, the moon's gravity starts sucking the spaceship to the moon. And he says they have to turn the spaceship around backwards and shoot the rocket off, okay, for 6 minutes to slow down. Otherwise, they'll go all the way around the moon and go straight back home. That's a lot of gravity. Think about that for a second, okay? Think about that. The moon, according to this astronaut who's been into outer space, right, in his dreams, he says you get about halfway to the moon, and the gravity of the moon is so strong, it pulls the spaceship to the moon. And, supposedly, the gravity of the moon is so great, it pulls the oceans up, and that's how we get tides. But it doesn't pull all oceans up. It seems like it only pulls up the great oceans, the big ones, the ones that are all the way connected. But the smaller ones, they don't have a tide at all. The Great Lakes, which are as big as some oceans, they don't have a tide at all. Regular lakes, no tide at all. Ponds, no tide. Swimming pools, no tide. Your coffee cup, no tide. So you're telling me that the gravity of the moon is so powerful, it pulls rocket ships to the moon, and it pulls oceans up 2 or 3 feet. All the way here on Earth, supposedly. But it doesn't affect lakes. It's not quite powerful enough to pull the lake water up, but it can an ocean, a big one. Makes a lot of sense, don't it? So, yeah. There's a lot of fantasy going on with these things, okay? So, yeah. 25,000 miles an hour, but then somehow you slow down to 3,000, but then you speed back up because of the moon. Okay? And, they ask him all these detailed questions about some stuff. He doesn't remember anything, hardly. He's old, right? But he went to the moon, and then he'll stop you and say, what's the point of this discussion? And then when they explain what they're saying, he'll say, well, I must have went to the moon. I brought all the moon rocks back. I picked up a 25-pound moon rock myself. What about those moon rocks? I picked up 200 pounds of moon rocks, and one of them was 25 pounds. It's like, well, did you ever see those moon rocks when you got back? Well, they were in a moon rock box, a rock box, and we weren't allowed to touch them or anything after that. Blah blah blah. It's like, okay. Well, somebody ended up giving one away, and it turned out to be fake. So then what they try to do is they try to prove chain of custody. Say, supposedly Neil Armstrong picked it up, and then he brought it back, and then NASA gave it to somebody, and that person gave it to the head honcho over here somewhere in the Netherlands. They had it checked out, and it's fake. So somewhere along in there, somebody slipped in a fake moon rock. Or they're all fake. Or you never went to the moon. How about that? So, yeah. Of course, then they go through the Van Allen radiation belts. They go through all of that, talking about how thick they are and how, we've got videos of Don Pettit talking about trying to get through the Van Allen belts, and another guy talking about it, and how we don't have the technology anymore to get to the moon, All of it was thrown away. But this guy here, he just says, well, all I know is I went to the moon. I went to the moon. I picked up moon rocks. Where do you think I got those moon rocks from? So, it's like a broken record. So then, he was asked about, why is it you think that, like, when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and all them came back and they had their big meeting, they all, they've got their heads down. They won't hardly answer any questions. One says he saw stars. The other says he didn't see any stars. And, and then they got their head down. They're all real sad acting. It's like, wouldn't you be really happy? You're like the first man that ever walked on the moon, and now you're back, and you're sitting on here. You made it all the way back, and you're having a press conference, and it looks like, your dog just died. It looks like you're at a funeral. And so this guy here, he's like, oh, yeah, the moon and stuff, it's just so great and all this stuff, and you want to spend more time there. These guys got back, and their whole attitudes were just changed, and it just did something to them mentally. And, Buzz became a raging alcoholic, and then they got a divorce, and basically their lives spiraled down into the alcoholism, divorces, just you name it. And, he relates that to the moon is just so wonderful. Down here is just so melancholy, those are my words, that nothing compares to the moon, right, in outer space. And, for example, and this is where I was going with this earlier, Neil Armstrong, Bart Sibrel interviewed a bunch of people that knew Neil Armstrong before he went to the moon okay? And they said that he was a very laughable, lovable guy. He was always the life of the party. He played the piano. People would gather around and he would sing and play the piano. When he got back from this moon trip, okay, they said he was like a completely different person. No more piano, no more interviews, no more life of the party, completely secluded, just blah. And of course, these others had other mental problems as well. So here's what I think. Okay. Oh, Charlie Duke here. I mean, you watch the video, you can watch it. You have to pay to watch it all. He seems like an honest guy. I mean, maybe he is telling the truth. You know, he talks, he repeats the same things over and over and over, like a script. Okay. His proof is moon rocks. He doesn't remember anything else of any significance. But his proof is in the moon rocks, even though at least one is proven to be fake. But that doesn't look like the moon rock he picked up. That's what he says. So he didn't pick that one up. And so then when somebody mentions Van Allen radiation belts, well, it didn't hurt him. He don't know anything about it. See, I guess he should be dead then, but he's not. He clearly made it back with moon rocks. So here's what I think. Oh, a side note. One of the other things that was mentioned is they're saying that NASA, when you landed either on the moon or back on Earth, before you can get out of the ship, they want you to go to sleep. Take a nap. Just relax. Relax, baby. Relax. Hey, you just got to the moon. Relax. Take a nap. Take a load off. You just got home from the moon? Well, you big boys just take yourselves a little nap, okay? Don't worry, we'll wake you up. In fact, you'll be home in time for cornflakes, okay? So think about this for a second. You were in the military, which all these guys were. They're supposedly pilots and test pilots. Test piloting top secret stuff. This guy here claims that when he was in the military, he had a top secret clearance. Then he goes to some school like Harvard or Yale, okay, another spook type deal, okay? You know, a whole bunch of different cult type deals come out of there, like Skull and Bones. Gets involved in a space program, which is clearly fake. Now, one of the things they have to do is go to sleep. Okay, how about this? Maybe, Charlie Duke here, maybe he really believes what he's saying. Maybe, because you know what other program was going along right along that same time as Apollo? It's a little program called MK Ultra, where the CIA and others were experimenting with mind control. You know, with the Manchurian Candidates. If you've never heard of that, watch the movie, okay? And, for example, in the movie Manchurian Candidate, you know, they've got whatever his actor, big popular actor, he starts remembering. But it kind of goes back and it shows you they've got all these military guys sitting in a room, and they feed them certain kinds of drugs that does something to their mind. And they sit them down in a chair and they play them these videos. And they keep telling him this stuff over and over and over. And they say, this is what you did. This is what happened. And by the time it's all said and done, they're like, and so then years later, they go to one of these guys and they ask him what happened. Oh, this, and this. Sounds great. They ask another guy, what happened? This, and this. Exact same story. Everybody they ask has got the same exact story. They all have the exact same details. But they can't remember anything else. I'm starting to think some, you know, maybe all, maybe these astronauts, okay, maybe they stuck them in a room somewhere and played them films, fake films of the moon, and said, look, this is you. You did that. You're walking on the moon. You did this. You did that. What's something, ground control to Major Tom, right? Houston, we have a problem. Okay? Remember all that. Now go back to sleep. And when you wake up, you tell everybody that's exactly what happened. Okay? And then periodically we'll come back and we'll get you in another room because, hey, you've got this top secret clearance and so you need to come in every once in a while. We need to kind of brief you again or debrief you. Come on back in, take a little nap. Here you go. Go to sleep. Now remember this, and this. All the other stuff, hey, you forgot. That's technical. Hey, somebody else did all that. All I know is this. So possibly this guy was an MK Ultra victim, and he honestly believes he went to the moon. He believes he picked up a 25-pound rock, and he picked up another 175 pounds of rocks because he says he picked up 200 pounds of rocks. Maybe he believes it. And then as this interview goes on, he kind of glitches, and he's like, what are we doing here again? What is the point of this discussion? And he has to be reminded, well, I went to the moon. I went to the moon. I brought back the moon rocks. And so it's like a broken record through the whole entire thing. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's why Neil Armstrong was a changed man, supposedly. Allegedly. Before he goes, he's happy-go-lucky type guy. After he gets his MK Ultra mind control plugged in, then he comes back like a drone. It's like, yes, I went to the moon. No, I didn't see any stars. Will you do an interview? No, I don't do interviews. Other than that, have a nice day. And then just disappear. I don't know. That's what I think. I think either these guys are devil liars. They're liars. They've been lying. They were told to lie. Maybe they were threatened. Maybe they were threatened as well and said, hey, if you don't tell these lies, we're going to kill you. Kill your family. That's why they look so depressed, and that's why they became alcoholics. That's why they got divorced, just you name it, because they're being forced to tell a lie. This guy here, I know he didn't really act like he was that way, so maybe he by that time, because he was the 10th person on the moon, right, versus the other one was the first guy on the moon. Maybe by the time they got up to the 10th time, they had the MK Ultra deal seamless and just programmed them in a dark room somewhere, and they come out saying, yeah, oh yeah, and they believe it. Maybe. Let's see here. Yeah, that's just about all the notes that I have on that. So it's a really interesting podcast, I think, because I personally have talked to Bart Sibrel, like I said, but most of these people on here, they they can't stand old Bart because he's questioning the moon. And even if you're not a flat earth guy, okay, a flat earth person, you still believe we went to the moon? I didn't know anybody would believe that anymore. Even Joe Rogan even talks about not going to the moon. He doesn't believe it. I mean, but there are literally hundreds of people commenting on this thing. They believe it hook, line, and sinker. They believe anything NASA says, and I mean anything. It's funny. I mean, it's sad in the fact that people are so stupid. You show some monkey suit jumping around up there, you can see the wires, astronauts hanging from wires. In one, you can see a guy in the background, and he ducks down because, they're looking at a model. These are models. Okay? Everything about it's fake. But, hey, you still have those people out there that are die hard. How dare you say we didn't go to the moon? They weren't even alive back then. How dare you say it? It's the truth. It's God's truth. And it's like, it's called propaganda. Okay, Hollywood propaganda. And you fell for it, and I understand. So did I. I fell for the whole spinning water ball in outer space traveling at 66,600 miles an hour, according to NASA. I believed it too till one day I woke up and was like, man, NASA sure likes the number 666 an awful lot. I wonder why. Oh, just a coincidence, boys and girls. Just a coincidence. It's a total coincidence that a institution, okay, I dare I say scientific institution because there's no science involved. A scientific institution, a satanic institution, would always use the number 666 on everything. And a Christian will look at it and go, wow, founded by atheists, huh? Yeah. Devil worshiping? Oh, yeah. Getting naked and worshiping the devil and praying to demons? Oh, yeah. What are we asking the demons for? Oh, shows how to build rockets. That's scientific right there. But, okay. What's their favorite number? 666. On everything? Oh, yeah. Everything that they fake, they put a 666 on it. I believe it. Oh, I believe it then. I want to believe it. It's like, don't you think that's a little odd? Yeah. Why? Well, I'm too brainwashed. I'm too brainwashed to think about anything like that. Okay? I've got to get that football game on. I've got to watch a grown man in tights. That's what I've got to do. I have to do it. I have to know everything about it. That is important. Oh, and then I need to binge watch something on Netflix. So I don't have time to think about the shape of the earth or anything else for that matter. All I have time to think about is whatever's on the TV. Television. It tells me a vision. It teleports it right into my brain. Television. So that's what they're all concerned with. So, are any of those people ever even going to watch this interview? Probably not. But however, I would love to get Bart Sibrel back on here again with video this time. Of course, he's not going to come here, but I think he lives in Thailand, maybe. I can't even remember. I'll have to look back. And last time I talked to him, his internet connection was horrible, and so we had to do voice only because his video wouldn't keep up. He isn't a third world country. You know what I mean? I'm surprised he has internet at all. But anyway, having said all that, it's an interesting one. One of the things I don't like about this Danny Jones podcast is, hey, if you want to watch it, you have to pay for it. You ain't getting nothing for free. So everything is all about the mighty dollar. You will have to pay for it to hear it. I put my stuff out there for free. Okay, if you want to make a donation, great. If you want to watch it for free, great. Okay? I'm not forcing people to pay for anything. So, anyway, but, these guys I guess that's how they make their living. I guess they sit around, they must, because he's got all kinds of big, popular people on there all the time. I don't know how they do it. I guess they do it. Of course, we have a different level of podcast too. Mine is a truther conspiracy, I guess you'd say religious, spiritual, Bible-believing podcast, where his podcast is all about, most of his guests on there are cussing like sailors. They say the F word and they take the Lord's name in vain more times than I can count. So, of course, they're going to be popular because the devil wants them popular. Of course he does. It's vile. A lot of it's vile filth. So, of course, you're going to have everybody and their dog tune into it because it's tickling their ears, their itching ears. They're getting exactly what they're paying for, too. Yeah. And that's why a majority of the people on here are so lost. You know, they're rooting for for the atheist organization, NASA. That's who they're rooting for. That's who we believe. You know, you mention God on any of this stuff, they'll just laugh you off of it. They're like, oh, you're an idiot. You're a blooming idiot. How dare you mention something like that? So, Anyway, so that's what we're left with on that one. Let's see here. I think that's it for today. Let me get this back over here. Any questions, comments, concerns? Go to, you can email me, truthseekers2012@gmail.com. You can head on over to our website. It's flatbro.com or truthseekersministry.org or kennywilliamson.com. Of course, I have, what do I have here? Of course, Flat Earth book on Amazon, Flat Earth Bible if you're interested. Spotify, McKill's Deck Chronicles by Dr. Kenny Williamson. If you're listening to that, please share it, subscribe, even rate it. That would be nice, as it helps defeat these algorithms. I'm on YouTube as McKill's Deck Chronicles by Kenny Williamson. Go check it out there. And then I am also on Rumble. It's under Kenny Williamson Official. So you can check it out on any one of those at any time. Thanks for listening. I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. It's pretty cold out here today. It's not snowing or anything, but they said it could. So down here in Arkansas. Hey, thanks for listening. And as always, which I try to tell people this, if you're not saved right now, you need to get saved before it's too late. Okay? You're just one heartbeat away. Okay? I know people that are like, oh, blah, blah. It did the next day, boy. I mean, just that quick. So, anyway, based on all the chemtrails and everything they're spraying around here, I know lots of people that got sick all at the same time. So, coincidence again, right? Thanks for listening. Please tune back in again. We're going to keep the podcast coming. Until we meet again, God bless you.